Hello everybody, it is me, GamePenguin21, and today, this is like the third time I'm trying to record this, and this is a little bit weird. But, today, we are going to be talking about a very weird article that I happen to have found on the internet today. That's right, this weird article comes to us from WCCF Tech, I believe. I don't know how you specifically pronounce that, but this whole WCC article really kind of made me just not understand how the heck a person can look at something like buying games and be like, let's make this a negative. It's very strange and very weird, and, well, you'll kind of understand what I mean and what I'm talking about whenever we're getting into this. It seems to be based on a meme, which is a very kind of open secret, which, again, was trying to be spun into some sort of, I don't know, console war type thing. But before we do that, and before we get into those retweets and weird stuff in there, if you like what it is that I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form, other than like and subscribe, which is always enough, links down to everything in the description below. I'm looking to hit 1.5k by the end of the year. Please, 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 let's try to see if we can up that up. Hit the subscribe button and like the video so we can push it through to other people. Looking to release my new EPs, probably sometime either next week or the following week, because I'm a little bit behind here in terms of getting videos out, but expect it at least by the end of the month, if not early August. And with that being said, I might end up pushing back the full EP or full album release a little bit, just because. But that's anything else. I also stream here on the channel every Sunday, as well as on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/GamePenguin1. Go follow me over there if you care. Alrighty. With all that being said, let's take a look at this article, I guess. So the article comes again to us from WCCF Tech. I'm not trying to even pronounce that, maybe Wolf Tech or something, I don't really know. Saying, according to Steam and games industry analyst Chris Zawadzki, Valve successfully cultivated a user base of hoarders who buy games they don't actually play for the most part. Now I find it interesting how this person tries to spin it as if it's a Steam-only problem. We'll get into why I specifically think about that in a little bit, because it's just very dumb that this article kind of became a Steam problem. And yes, certainly, there are probably places on Steam and probably places in digital gaming in general where you buy a bunch of games and you just so happen to have it. I mean, things such as Humble Bundle exists, things such as free game codes and stuff like that exist. And, like, there are ways for people to gift games to other people and they just never play them for whatever reason. I know that I've had people that have been like, hey, I'll gift you a game, and I just never ended up playing the actual game for one reason or another, and I can't really return it as it's a gifted game. It's not really how gifted games work. But there was also a little bit of a quote from the underneath of this article, and we'll look at the article in a bit so we can get some more full context here. But alongside that was also a poll where there was, again, it's pretty much an open secret that there just so happens to be games that when they're on sale, they, never get really touched because there's like, oh, I'll get around to it eventually, and then that's how a backlog gets up. But the quote here that I wanted to talk about here says, the reason game developers are willing to give Valve 30% of their revenue is because Steam Marketplace is packed with super gamers who throw money at games they never intend, they have no intention of playing. Now, again, I find this interesting, again, how you can look at some of the success of places like Steam and some of the success of, like, how many hours of people playing games on PC and say, yeah, they're not willing to play the games that they buy, despite the fact that there are plenty of other times where, people play the games that they buy. And sometimes the games that they buy just, don't happen to be the game that they play or buy as of right now. It's very strange, and at the same time, I'm not sure how they got this metric of, people buying and playing games and how they actually did it, because this is the actual article that we're talking about here. There's no doubt, even with all of Epic Games' efforts, or all of Epic's efforts to last a few years with Steam remains one of the biggest gaming online stores on PC. Now, that also appears to be more convenient for developers, even with Valve demanding 30% of everyone's revenue, in contrast to Epic only taking 12%. And starting last month, only after they have passed the first $1 million in revenue, which the company takes is like free of charge. Why that's the case, according to Steam games industry analyst Chris Zawadzki, Valve successfully cultivated a user base of hoarders who buy games that don't actually play for the most part. Now, I find it really interesting how they bring up Epic Games in this context. Again, Epic Games. If you want to talk about a a place where they go and hoard games where that they will probably never intend to play, look no further than Epic Games. Why is that? Well, because they give away a lot of their games for free. Same thing with places such as GOG and, well, Humble Bundle. Both of those places themselves don't necessarily give away games for free, at least not for GOG and Humble Bundle, because GOG you still have to buy the games, or if you have a Twitch Prime subscription or a Twitch account alongside your your Prime subscription for Amazon Prime, you can actually get a bunch of free games off of them doing that. I mean, I know I have at least 20 to 30-ish games over on GOG that I have not paid for because all of those codes were provided for me subscribing to the Amazon services. Now, obviously, that's just me subscribing to a service, so those games aren't technically free, but again, getting 4 to 5 games for around $16 a month, that's a pretty decent deal. I mean, again, considering that for, I think, $20, you can get over 100 games per month with Game Pass, that's still, again, really solid of a deal. And I also find it, again, really funny how they say, oh yes, Steam is the problem because they take, again, 30%, which has been an industry standard for Steam and other platforms for a long-ass time. And also, how, again, it's specifically a Steam problem because of the fact that they have games and they have significant sales on games to basically have them hoard for games that they will never download and play. What the fuck is up with Epic Game Store, again, giving away games for free? At least in the context of Steam, you could make the argument that the developers are still getting paid at the end of the day, unless the game is free to play or the game becomes free for some reason for a limited time, like a free to keep thing, which does tend to happen. It's very rare because I don't know specifically what would intend for that to happen, but Valve does do that sometimes, but they still get paid money to the developers at the end of the day, even if it's on some sort of a sale. It's probably subsidized or something like that, I'm not too certain. But again, the same thing happens here as we continue with the article where, again, Valve cracked the problem that Netflix was struggling with, which is how do you have people with so much entertainment at their fingerprints that they don't have enough hours in the day to play and watch it all. Valve basically added infinite hours to a gamer's day. It's a theoretical future day where gamers someday will spend hours playing your specific game, which that's just a marketing thing entirely. I don't know what the hell they're going on about for that. It's it's weird because, again, saying oh, let's be honest, it's not going to happen. Yes, people have backlogs. People have games that they never intend to play. But again, it's a Steam problem specifically for the fact that people overbuy games, which has been a pretty big thing, not just in the digital gaming space and not just in PC gaming in general, but there are plenty of physical people who have what some would call the wall of virginity, where I can guarantee you about half of those games, 50% of the games on that quote-unquote wall of virginity, either haven't been touched in years or haven't actually been played and are just there for display purposes. I can assure you of that. But continuing on, they go to list off an example of how during Steam Next Fest, which is a place that I cover sometimes, where they have a bunch of game demos, where they wouldn't even download the demo, even though the demo was free, but they just wishlist the game. That's not a good example at all, and it's a terrible example. But they also say that one such example that is on their staff, which is a pretty example, with Chris Wary, has over 6,000 games, which, again, sure. And he has only launched about 20% of them. 20% of 6,000 is around 2-ish thousand. I think a little bit more, a little bit less. I'm not too certain on the numbers there. Maybe, but around that number. He's only launched about 20% of his whole library. Congratulations. You can do math, I guess. And you can see that on SteamDB, which I wouldn't really trust. Needless to say, the backlog of stuff is the stuff of legend. Again, a lot of that stuff here. And he didn't buy all the games, which is very important to say. Some of them we provided for reviews, but it's only a minor percentage, okay? But how much of a minor percentage of that is actually doing that? And you've also now added another aspect to this article that weakens your point. Yes, you're talking about how this person here has a fuck ton of games, right? Over 6,000 games within his Steam library. But you're saying that he's only launched about 20% of them. okay, but you have to also say that in the granular things that this is a person on your staff. This is a person who reviews video games for a living. You even provide the information saying that some of them was provided for reviews. How many of them were provided for reviews? If it's over 1,000, then that means that he only has like 5,000 games that he's probably ever bought, maybe even less than that. And it's strange to me how they don't see this as a terrible, terrible, terrible example. And this whole article is like that. Again, that's pretty much the end of the article that's there. I just wanted to provide the more context to that. So basically, the way that this article is written and the way that it says, like, oh, they've cultivated this thing is that they use 2 examples. Steam Next Fest, which isn't a great example of games, as most of the games are upcoming games, and some people just don't want to play the demo for one reason or another, and they just end up wishlisting the game because it looks cool, but again, at the same time, wishlisting the thing and playing the demo aren't necessarily the same thing. People can be like burnt out on demos or something like that, or they want to play the full game, but whatever. But the wishlisting one isn't a good example, and the second one is a even worse example in some cases because that person has a job of reviewing video games for your company. So they're an outlier in a lot of cases because not everyone's going to have 6,000 games on their computer at once. Not everyone's going to have the job of reviewing video games. That's just how shit works. So, yeah, you can see the reason why I'm not really fond of this article. But not only that, it's also interesting how this article made the rounds on Twitter because of the fact that a lot of these guys here trying to console war for this shit. And holy crap, let's look at some of these responses of retweets here. So, starting of course off with TMO6, which is a very nice Pokemon reference, where they heart JRPGs, saying some of the loudest PC fanboys on this app are fucking frauds, lol. All you have to do is take a look at their Steam achievements, sort by achievement completion, and the rest is history. Okay, so first of all, that's not at all what the article was fucking saying. The article was saying that if you look at the actual numbers of people that launched the games, then yeah, those people are very minority. Or I guess there is a small amount of games that exist in a person's library or something like that. Again, the article is a little confusing here, but they never said anything about things such as Steam achievements. And plus, I would also say that Steam achievements and achievements in general aren't the best way to monitor for all games, as there are a number of games out there that actually don't have any Steam achievements to them. Like, I can think of at least one of my more popular games that's on my Steam library has no achievements at all, and is more of just a social platform that is like a game and has games to it, but again, you don't have any sorts of methods of doing that. I would say that if you were to really take a look at if a person is playing video games or not, is to take a look at the hours for those games. If the person has like 0 hours in the game and it's just sitting in their library, then yeah, absolutely, that person bought that game and had that same problem with it. But again, I also find it really funny how this is practically a kind of open secret where a lot of people on the PC gaming space say, we're inundated with a ton of fucking games, too many to actually play. So yeah, obviously there probably is going to have several of them in backlog that are going to be slipping through the cracks. And with the current state of PC, and with the current state of AAA gaming, some people are starting to go through those backlogs because there's just nothing better to offer that's new in this context. And again, one of the other things that's really funny is, like, another article previously said that they were buying older games that didn't come out that specific year. It was like down by like 20 to 30% in 2024 or 2025 or something like that. Where not everyone was buying like newer games that came out that year, which, okay. So, but yeah, saying that like, oh yeah, take a look at their Steam achievements. No, that's not at all what they're talking about here. DJ King Gaming here saying, you don't need an animalist to figure that out. I would say that this is more of a meme post, and if this is one of the salty ones, I guess it's here. Not really much to say, just see point above. There really is nothing else to it. Again, using this article is just really bad in general. Old Man Gaming Guru here says, I hadn't saw this before my earlier post. What kills me even more is frauds saying they grew up on PlayStation, but somehow their trophy is about 300. How? I don't chase trophies or plats, just a real gamer who's gone 3.5 to 4 years, who was gone 3.5 to 4 years during the PS4 and still got over a 360 level. Again, I don't know where people get these metrics from of like real gamer stuff. Like, I would say that if you're playing video games on like anything other than mobile, I would say that you're a real gamer. And even if you play it like statistically a lot on your mobile phone for whatever reason, then you're a mobile gamer, which is like that whole thing is just kind of all, and you know what I mean. But saying like you're a real gamer, despite the fact that you just weren't in the gaming community for about like 3 to 4 years, and having a specific level of achievements, which again, the article never mentioned anything about achievements. It was talking about things such as Steam DB, which I again don't know how good that of a metric that would be and what that tracks. If it tracks things like hours played, then yeah, absolutely. Look at hours played and not specifically Steam achievements, which this never really talked about. Some people were also talking about how this was like a big thing that they were talking about the Steam achievements and things. And I just look at that and I'm like, no, because there are people out there who can't get achievements for one reason or another, or have like some of the starting achievements, and that's it. That's not a good metric to really talk about to it. Saying so PC gamers don't play games confirmed. I've been new this shit. I also like how in the article he says for the most part there's the problem, but again, saying that like, oh, it's a Steam problem, or oh, it's a PC gamer problem from just the Steam charts or just the Steam numbers, that there is a hoarding problem on Steam, doesn't mean that like, you know, PC gamers don't buy or play games. They do buy or play games because I guess that's a bad thing. They do buy and play games. Like, but it's not like an unsubstantiated claim to say, hey, there's a lot of gamers out there with very big backlogs because, you know, it's PC. Azure Dawn here says Presido's been PC eardos. Being frauds, nothing new. Again, this article proves fuck and all in that context. It just says like there are people out there that have it. And again, the two examples that they use are from Steam Next Fest, probably the Summer Games Fest, which I don't even know if they have numbers for that at the time of this, and one person on their own fucking staff who they admit that they had given codes to him to inflate his numbers. So his metric for how much of games he's played and launched on his own time on his Steam account are irrelevant, as his numbers are skewed to the more extreme manner because of those amount of games that you've given for his fucking job. Even if it was like a small amount, the number is still skewed more to prove their point rather than anything else. This doesn't account for things that they've actually given him that he just hasn't played or hasn't gotten around to do a review on, or given to him via like humble bundles or places to actively save money. It doesn't talk about any of that. It just says that it's a Steam problem because of the Steam discounts that you buy off of Steam, without again talking about GOG, or without again talking about Epic Games, or without again talking about Humble Bundle, which probably Humble Bundle is the most applicable to all three of those. So if Steam has a problem with people hoarding games, those other platforms contribute more to the problem than Steam does, in my opinion. So there you go. RJ here with I mean, that's pretty obvious. I see many people talk about Steam discounts and not really much about playing the games they bought. It's their money. And I mean, I guess in some way, shape, or form, we do talk about discounts and prices and stuff like that fairly regularly. Maybe not on his channel all the time, but talking about that. But there are definitely people out there who have played the games and who show off their gameplay. I mean, again, I specifically use a lot of my PC gameplay in the background of this video and most videos that I make in general. So I still do play games and I still do have reviews on those said games, but that's neither here nor there. Like, playing the games that I do, like, I talk about a bunch of games. Like, again, maybe I'm not buying as much, but at the same time, it's just, I don't know, Steam is relatively consumer friendly, but the joke is that they relied on your FOMO to make money. I'm pretty sure this isn't wholly accurate, but it's very funny. If Steam is relying on FOMO to make money by having these sorts of discounts in games, what the fuck are the other places that do the same exact thing, where they give some discounts on games, or they give like free games within a specific service, which is something that I've talked about both extensively in this fucking video. Don't you think that, it's not just a Steam thing? It's like a thing in general, where some people just have this FOMO mentality to it. And again, this wasn't even really talked about FOMO in this. It was talking about how there were people that were looking forward to games that they didn't play the demos for, or about a person who was on the staff who had over 6,000 games that was doing that as a review for their job that didn't play a lot of the games. How much of that number is skewed is my biggest question here. Don't use this as a thing. And I think this is, again, it's just whatever. Anyway, next up we have JC4 with a confirming what I knew for a year. PC players don't play games. They just brag about buying them for low prices on Steam. Again, in some context, yes. In other contexts, no. It really depends on the person. And what's the problem about trying to save money and buying into your hobby, you know? Again, at least we have a surplus of games like this to play. How many games on console are like that? Where, oh, the games are so expensive now. Like, why is it bad that we're getting them at a discount? And we have so many that we have the option for picking it. I'd rather have the choice of more options and maybe have some things slip through the cracks than have the choice of no options and paying more for those said options. Joel actually brings up a very interesting point here, saying that he doesn't get it and why buy games you're not going to play. Sure, if there's a sale, you're most likely to buy a game, but if you're not going to play it, then what's the point? Just on the off chance that you may get around to playing it one day, maybe it's a me issue. I don't think it's a me issue or I don't think it's a you issue for not understanding this, as, again, it's one of those things where it's a good point to have. Saying that, like, all of this is just because, oh, buying the games for it. Yes, but sometimes you don't buy just the one game. Specifically, again, to use the Humble Bundle example, there are times when I will be looking at Humble Bundles, and there'll be only about, like, a handful of games in there that I actually kind of want, like 2 or 3. If it's, like, a 5 to 6 thing bundle, there'll be, like, 2 or 3 or 4 different game codes that I would want to buy from Humble Bundle, but I'll still buy the whole thing, and most of those other codes will never really get used because I don't want those specific games. Like, I know for an interesting example, I was gifted a game by someone because I won it in, like, a Discord competition that I was doing for, like, a specific people, and it was a friendly one, and it was really cool. And I ended up getting, I believe, like, My Little Pony something, because it was funny, and I was like, cool, I will probably never play this game, but I was still gifted it as a reward for, like, winning something. Like, that's a thing that people do. They sometimes gift other people games, and that does this article doesn't account for any of that. It doesn't account for things like the gifted games, or, like, the Humble Bundle stuff. Or, again, it just talks about Steam and not GOG or Epic, which I've also talked about extensively in this fucking video. Both of those are probably even worse than this, as you can just get free games all the time from those, as I've given previous examples. So, yeah. To round out the video, the last 2 things here that are really just nothing of note, just kind of reiterating stuff. Saying Eisen Da, saying, damn, they say PS gamers don't play games. Looks like it's PC gamers that didn't play games this whole time. You can't really say that, as, again, the numbers are more or less skewed in the direction to try to make this look accurate. Again, the example that they use, the one good-ish example, is highly skewed, as the person's job is to review video games. They work on staff in the actual place, and they even admitted in the article they've given him several codes, or they've given him a fair amount of codes for his job to play. So if he's worked for them for even probably like 2 years or something, it's just really dumb. With Ace saying they'll claim they do, though, and I never understood this one. I think it's like they'll claim they have a big backlog, like, because, yeah, a lot of PC gamers do claim that we have a big backlog. We do claim that we have a lot of big games that we buy and will probably get around to at some point. But, you know, we just don't, because we have other games that we're buying and playing. Like, I've recently gotten back into, I should say, Abiotic Factor, which was just like a survival Half-Life 1 styled game, which is a pretty interesting thing. Might make a more of an extensive review on it once 1.0 starts to come out, because that's going to be really cool to do. But yeah, overall, this article sucks. And I frankly wanted to make a video ranting and raving about this because, Jesus Christ, how can you not only write this such an opinion piece that clearly is trying to do the whole console boring thing, at least from what I can tell, and use terrible examples like the Steam Next Fest, which are like demos for upcoming indie games, or someone from your own staff, or the Steam sales stuff, which you don't even have metrics for and don't even bring up as like a metric thing. You even talk about things that are like, you don't talk about humble bundles, you don't talk about gifting, you don't talk about any of that shit. No. It's just a Steam problem because Steam has discounts. What the fuck? Anyway, I think that'll about be done with me ranting and raving into this microphone for the time being. If you like what it is I do, and inform me in any other way, shape, or form, other than like and subscribe, which is always enough, links down to everything in the description below. Looking at 1.5k by the end of the year, please, thank you, that would be cool. Overall, this article sucks. If you want to know more about what I'm doing, keep up with all the social things like I said before. My new album and new EP dropping very soon. The EP probably sometime either next week or the last week of July, with the full album releasing late August, probably early September, because I release music sometimes. Keeping up with everything here, I stream here every Sunday, and I also stream across the weekend on the Twitch channel. Go and check that out. Links down below. My name is Campaign21, and peace. Hey man, can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, I know.